In this video, we're going to walk through the new Allegiance Slaanesh article that just came out for the Warhammer community page and talk about what that means for summoning as a whole.
Okay.
Welcome, Wargamers. My name is Doug with 2+Tough, and as I mentioned, we're talking all about Slaanesh today, but also what that means for kind of the greater picture of AOS going forward. The kind of design vision that we've seen go from the first edition into where we are now, or where we're heading towards. I think it's going to be a great discussion. So if you're not already, head over to Instagram at this address, and you can follow me there. I've been doing a lot of hobby progress on Moonclan Grots, Slaves to Darkness. I just picked up some more Gene Stealer Cult stuff, so a lot of stuff's going on there. I started filming battle reports on there through the Instagram stories, so you can follow along with me there. Still kind of fine-tuning a little bit, but the first one I compressed into a single file and uploaded here. You can go check that out on the channel. So my first ever battle report, technically speaking, and I think it's a lot of fun, so go follow me there. Okay, so now we're going to transition over to that article I was talking about. You see here. Okay, make sure I got myself in the bottom right out of the way. Awesome. So we're scrolling down to find the correct one. I feel like I just passed it. Nope, here we go. There's some more ones, obviously, that came out. We're going to touch on those in just a second. But this is one that I think deserves its own conversation. Not because... Let me just spoil a little bit here. Not because it's an immensely radical change to the game and the way Slaanesh plays, but it kind of gives us an insight into how the company, Games Workshop itself, the design team, views summoning. So going back here, just like the Slaves to Darkness article, it describes who they are. We scrolled down, there's some beautiful artwork, well, not artwork, but collections of models. It does kind of bring people who are newer up to speed about where Slaanesh is. If you haven't been following the stories, he is trapped between the realm of light and the realm of shadow in kind of this little pocket dimension here, and he's being kept captive by Teclis, Tyrion, Morathi, and Malarian, who, those are like the four kind of elven powerhouses, right? Morathi's not a god, but the other three are. Teclis and Tyrion are in light as far as we know. At least Tyrion is for sure. Teclis, we assume, is with him. And then Malarian is god of shadows. So together they have captured him and are ripping out souls. What's interesting to note here, and people don't talk about this a ton, is they actually point to Shadespire in the map. This is the first time we've seen Shadespire on an actual map. If you're not familiar with the story, I want to do a Shadespire week to get you caught up with the lore. But basically what happened was people in Shadespire really ticked off Nagash, and so he put a curse on them and literally ripped them away from the realm that they were in. And so I believe they used to be in death. He tore them away from that and threw them kind of in this in-between place where it's never quite day, never quite night. Souls don't rest. It's all darkness and grim. So that's kind of awesome. It's cool to see, like, for the purposes of this article, they didn't have to include that, but I dig that they did. So, kind of gives you a sense of how Slaanesh plays, which is all about speed, if you're not familiar. When the Slaanesh release comes, we're going to really deep dive into this, because I'm very excited. Slaanesh has become one of my favorite Chaos Gods. It definitely goes Nurgle, Slaanesh, probably Tzeentch, and then Khorne. But even in my own opinion, they wax and wane in terms of like who I'm really digging lately. Slaanesh is all about speed, all about martial prowess. They're going to hit hard, a lot of glass cannon stuff. Volume of attacks is a big thing. I think Khorne does volume of hits better, whereas Nurgle does a lot of wound stuff, but Slaanesh does a lot of volume, right? Just tons and tons and tons. To kind of go along with this, where is that? The Keeper of Secrets has a command ability that's Slaanesh demons within 12 inches, pile in and attack a second time, so you're getting, again, more and more and more attacks. The base unit for Slaanesh also has Rend on it, which is a huge thing to me. So this is a great army. My buddy, shout out Jack, locally. If you've seen Rerolling Ones, I think they had a battle report with Slaanesh on there, I believe, versus Sylvaneth, I think. And they're just nasty. Most of the army can run and charge. I know the cavalry, they're not horses, but cavalry guys, for demons can go incredibly fast, and so that's definitely a theme in the army. Positioning is huge, and they kind of go over that, and this is a player perspective. Basically, they pick some important person in the Warhammer community and just kind of ask them, you know, obviously here, what attracted you to the army? What are some great tips for new players? Great introduction stuff. I won't go into that a little bit. And then they come to in the new edition part. Okay. And they kind of recap the fact, and this is important, and they brought it up with the Fire Slayers too, that the Allegiance abilities that were in General's Handbook 2017 are being ported over to this year's one. We know that we're getting a new rule book for AOS 2.0, and we also know that with that there's also going to be a General's Handbook. It looks like they're kind of spoiling information together, like interwoven. They're not really saying who's going to be in what, but I'm assuming it's going to be General's Handbook. And that's very important to know that there's going to be more than one release coming. Save your money. Okay, back to the article. They kind of talk about his importance with the Deepkin and Daughters of Cain and how they're trying to bring it to the tabletop. They have a special note here about the way they reworked some of the command abilities. If you're not familiar with Slaanesh in General's Handbook 2017, I have an article about that, or a video about that. And there's basically 3 different armies you can pick: invaders, like imposters, and something else, where basically it changes your command abilities and how they work within your army. Because this is to represent, some people are seeking Slaanesh, some people think he's dead and they're trying to gain power, like to kind of control what were his forces, those kinds of things, represent those on the tabletop. This is just clarifying, hey, we spoiled what command abilities and traits are going to look like in the new edition. Here's how we've tweaked one of them. That was kind of cattywampus, if you will, and how they're going to rewrite it. Just kind of give you a clarification on how things are going to look in the future. And they get to the bottom here, and this is really the crux of what I wanted to talk about, okay? If you are someone who doesn't have the ability to stop and read, or you haven't had a chance to read the article, it says, Slaanesh is receiving some powerful new summoning mechanics in the new edition. Using the new depravity points system, you'll be able to bring anything from demonettes to a keeper of secrets onto the tabletop, in all caps, without spending reinforcement points. Generating depravity points is very thematic. You'll score 1 for every wound your heroes inflict on a foe without killing them, or every non-fatal wound they receive in return, representing how the servants of the Dark Prince draw power from suffering and cruelty. Pause. They're not the only faction to be receiving summoning changes either. So there's a lot packed into that. So let's talk about this. I'm going to cycle back and forth between me just to kind of give you something else to look at. Depravity points. This goes along with the blood tithe points from Khorne, the cycle of corruption, and the whatever the point, I can't remember what it's called, the corruption points or something like that. Contagion points for Magic Kingdom Nurgle. Tzeentch doesn't have anything quite like this, but also then the graveyard sites for Legions of Nagash, where it's alternate means of deployment for these units that are summonable. And I think that's really great. Obviously, Legions of Nagash is the only thing with the keyword summonable, but it's just alternate mechanisms for getting summoned creatures onto the table. I think you know what I mean. The way that they have approached this from a design perspective has been top-notch the entire way. The first book to get it was Blades of Khorne, and that if you kill 8 things or 8 things die on the tabletop, you get 8 blood tithe points. You can summon a unit. I believe in that one you do have to pay reinforcement points for. They might change that going forward, because this is a change similar. And killing 8 things on the tabletop it takes a lot to do sometimes. Magic of Nurgle, where things get more corrupted over time and entropy sets in, like this is very thematic, just as the Khorne one is. And then the Legions of Nagash one, having grave sites where battles have taken place long ago, and then using those as part of your summoning mechanic is very thematic for them as well. This is amazing. And the reason I like this is frankly the reasons why it happens, which is to say, if Slaanesh is very hero-based, because it's all about the hero, the leader, the warband leader trying to gain glory, to look the best, be the best, prove that they're the best continuously. And so making that a thematic part of the game, I think is really awesome. So again, to recap, if your hero, any hero, from what it looks like here, hurts somebody and doesn't kill them, that's a depravity point. So any kind of multi-wound model, if you don't kill them outright, is huge. What I'm interested to see, it doesn't say anything about having to hurt enemy heroes, which is good. It shouldn't. That'd be too specific, I think. But let's say you hit a unit of 2 wound models, right? Liberators. And you deal 3 wounds, 1 dies, 1 gains the extra wound. I'm curious to see if you just get 1 depravity point. I imagine you would, because it's the amount of damage that didn't kill somebody. So that would be 1 depravity point in that scenario. and obviously however much you can take in return. And so what this does to me is it screams what the army is about, which is a bunch of people trying to prove that they're the best. You want heroes for this mechanic to function, but you also want to be very intelligent about how you use them. And I think that's going to be the coolest part of this, is seeing how top and higher level players who really think about their target priority and who they send to fight what are going to make this mechanic work. I assume there's more to depravity points than just summoning. That could not be the case, though. It could be summoning, because it is still a General's Handbook thing. It probably won't have a full mechanic workout, however. But even if it is, that's awesome. It tells me that you want heroes in combat, which we'll get to in my next video about how they're going to protect heroes on the way in. But for this point, there are a lot of heroes that Slaanesh has available. Anything in the Slaves to Darkness range that can take a mark. So anything except the War Queen and Dark Oath Chieftain. And those are awesome heroes. Like the Lord of Chaos is an awesome hero. What else? They have the Mask, I believe, is a hero as well, and everything on a chariot, like the leaders on a chariot. I'm sorry. Those are all fantastic choices that do very specific things, and so I think if you pick the right heroes, have enough of them so you can kind of count on, summoning some things, I think it ends out being very, very thematic. Now, moving into the big thing, we'll just highlight it here because it is worth noting, without spending reinforcement points. That's huge. That tells me a few things. One, they've really thought about the balance of this in terms of it's not broken, right? It's not a freebie. It relies heavily on how many heroes you bring and then how effectively you use them. Because you have to remember that the more heroes you bring, the less you bring of everything else. Heroes are far more expensive than your typical unit sometimes in terms of the damage output personally versus how many you get, right? 10 demonettes will outlast one dude, even if he has 5 wounds. It doesn't matter. And so I don't think it's broken. Again, we don't know the cost of everything, and that fundamentally is what it comes down to in terms of game balance. Everything is fair as long as it's cost appropriate, and that's where we get into some things where it's like, is it fair to bring a unit of demonettes in if you've killed, if you get 2 depravity points? I would say no, that's a little bit low. But like 4? I don't know. I mean, that means you've probably put your hero has taken several licks and you probably delivered some. I don't know. I mean, it's all about that. So before people get, I don't know, upset about having one faction that's all about, that can do that without spending points, which is a huge boon. Like, don't get that wrong. That is massive, that there's a faction out there that can summon without paying for anything. Its game balance has to be internal, and the thing is, it has to be balanced against its own faction. The things that Slaanesh can bring, the damage they can do, and the ways that they can use the heroes effectively, those are the things that matter. Again, you don't get points if your hero dies, so that's huge. I think that's going to be a huge limiting factor. I think you're going to see a lot of people get excited, rush their heroes forward, and they're going to die, and they're going to get no depravity points, and when the heroes are dead, they're going to have no way of getting more. So I think in practice, it'll probably be pretty good, provided that they've put a lot of thoughts into how many points everything's going to be. To do some wild speculation that I have no evidence for, let's talk about this line. They're not the only faction to receive summoning changes either. I'm gonna bet. Okay, this is my as I predicted statement. I'm gonna say Seraphon. I'm gonna say Seraphon gets something. Some type of new thing. And so kind of transitioning into kind of the larger topic I want to talk about, which is summoning. A long time ago, I put out a video called Summoning in Age of Sigmar. That's actually when I first started the channel. I was in the garage of like 2 apartments ago or something. And I talked about the problems with summoning we had when AOS first came out was it was nothing more than alternate deployment. And in addition to that, sorry, this is after the General's Handbook came out, and it clarified the reinforcement points thing. So it was just alternate deployment, and it took away opportunities. By this I mean every wizard in the game has a really cool, unique spell, at least most of them do. And when you have to use that spell, because remember, most wizards are a single spell and a single unbind. When you have to use them to summon something to the table, you're not using their cool thematic, super special spell. And so it took away the opportunity for that character to do its unique thing. So that was kind of a bummer. People didn't like that. I just certainly didn't like that. And so when we moved into, started seeing Blades of Khorne, Maggotkin of Nurgle, Legions of Nagash, these other alternate mechanics, and sort of kind of bolted onto the game that didn't interfere with it, and were very easy to learn, very intuitive, for ways of bringing models on the table so that your normal wizards can do cool things. Not in Khorne's case, because thematically he doesn't have very many wizards, but I mean Maggotkin of Nurgle wizards are using cool Nurgle-y spells and being awesome. Legions of Nagash guys are doing all their cool magics, and they have different spell lores that they can now pull from, and they're not wasting time summoning models to the tabletop. So the trend I'm seeing is they realized, okay, Magic is taking away opportunities, and Age of Sigmar from the beginning has been about yes and. If you're not familiar with that, it's if you play D&D and you come up with a crazy scenario for your DM, if it's a good one, says yes and, meaning you don't ever shut someone down, you don't block them from opportunities, you incorporate them into your story and keep moving forward. And so that is what I see happening here, where it's like summoning's a problem because people are not able to do that, plus what makes their faction fun. Okay, you can summon and use your cool spells. And I think that's really exciting. The reason I say Seraphon is in terms of factions who I think really need it. First of all, Seraphon are also in General's Handbook. So if they're going to rewrite this to make it include that style of mechanic, yeah, it makes sense. Why not? Why not do it to them too? They're already in the book. Tzeentch already has his own battle tome that doesn't have any kind of alternate summoning. And I would say that Seraphon at this point in the game have a lot of incredibly cool, fun, flavorful spells they don't use because they're busy summoning, or they don't summon, which is a cool part of their army because they're a good guy demon, right? Which is awesome. So they can use their cool spells. So it removes opportunity for either one of those things. I think definitely they're going to be the next ones to get that. As far as Tzeentch goes, I'm a little more lax on the Tzeentch. I'm okay with them not having an alternate mechanic, and the reason is there's the amount of wizards to normal dudes is way in their favor. Like every unit of pink horrors can summon something. They can summon pink horrors. Who can summon pink horrors? Who can summon pink? You know what I mean? Like they can do those things. Their risk of losing opportunity is, I think, far less because of the number of wizards they have. Other factions, wizards are kind of more elite hero-y, whereas if your basic unit can do those kinds of things, you're not losing a ton. And so I think I'm okay with that right now. Even as someone who loves Tzeentch, I'm actually very okay with that. I want Seraphon to get this. Referring back to my old video, it was definitely something I was pretty negative about. And I say I'm a very positive person, but it's something that's a huge critique I think needed to work. And what we're seeing now is Games Workshop changing the direction of summoning to reflect two things, which is one, not removing opportunity like we talked about before, and then also incorporating flavor as mechanics. So killing stuff to summon bloodletters is the most Khorne thing that you can do. Having the table corrupt over time and become more Nurgle-y, which brings forth more Nurgle demons, is the most Nurgle thing. Same thing, like all the battlefield stuff that we read about, like dead people just kind of everywhere. Using those to your advantage is the most Nagash thing there is. And so I think what we're seeing here is the company saying the mechanics need to work, but we're going to pivot in such a way that it incorporates the great lore that we've been writing for the last 3 years for AOS. And I think, man, that is incredible. And I think we should all be super happy about that. So tell me what you think about this. If you are a Slaanesh player, I want you to leave a comment down below. My good friend Jack is as well. And so I'm very excited to see that army take off. And I want to hear your thoughts on summoning. Is there a summoning army that you know or play that you want to see get reworked that isn't either Seraphon or Tzeentch? I'm trying to think of any others. I think it's just Legions of Nagash, and we'll see what Nighthaunt does. And that's very exciting here pretty soon. So leave in the comments down below. Tell me what you think, and I'll look forward to seeing you in my next video.